What if I told you you can get in big trouble by doing visa runs? Maybe even get detained, maybe even get denied entry. So a tourist visa is basically where you enter a country, typically somewhere in Asia, on a 60 or 90-day landing visa that's really intended for tourism. You stay there throughout pretty much the entire duration of that visa. In the last couple days of that visa, you basically buy a ticket, you fly somewhere else in the area, you do a normal vacation, for like a week, and then you go back into the other country you were staying in originally for another 90-day period. And basically just every 90 days, you pretty much come in and out, resetting that visa. And we used to do this all the time. We had leases set up. If you happen to have already, like you had worked prior to doing this, you could set up a bank account. Sometimes people had IDs. And so they could basically de facto get themselves set up in that country without going through like a formal visa process. And this was not a secret in any way. There were a couple times where I was like cutting it close and I called the Korean immigration office and I asked them like, hey, I am in this situation. What do you recommend I do? And they said, you should buy a plane ticket and you should leave tonight and then just come back. And I had fully told them the situation and then I did that and it was totally fine. So this was a known thing. There was nothing illegal about it. But it was also like kind of abusing the system. So you weren't actually breaking a law, but there was always some sense that while you were doing this, there might be some sort of change in policy or just, the immigration official was like in a bad mood that day and decided they wanted to, deny a foreigner. So we were very much there at the pleasure of the host country. And honestly, at the time, it was great. However, the days of visa runs are over. So the 2010s were pretty awesome for being a nomad in the sense that it was a little more like the Wild Wild West. I started doing visa runs in like 2014 when I was staying in Korea. I had friends that had been on doing the visa run thing for like 5 years in Korea. I knew guys that were doing it down in Thailand. We were just doing that for years. The only real rule was you couldn't have like a job or be making money like within the economy. They want you spending money into the economy, not working and taking the money out of the economy, competing with local labor, not paying taxes, maybe even sending the money back to another country. Every time we would do a visa run, me or one of my friends, we'd always be messaging the other guy, like as soon as they got through, like, hey, let me know how it goes. Let me know if they ask any questions, give you any problems or whatever. Because we always had, even though we were doing this for years and years on end, we always had this sneaking suspicion that at some point it was going to catch up with us. They were going to deny entry. They were going to give you a hard time. And honestly, for the most part, it was really, really never an issue. Last year, I was living in Europe, so I was not really around for this. But my other friends that did stick back in Korea did actually start getting hassled. So you had all of these guys doing their visa runs, and suddenly you started hearing I started hearing stories here and there from my friends of, them getting backroomed more often, them getting more questions. Like, hey, do you have a business here? Are you working here? What are you doing? And putting more scrutiny to them. And it got ramped up more and more and more. Actually, earlier this year, one of my friends was going in and out. Everything seemed like it was fine. And then not only did he get backroomed, he actually got detained. They basically confiscated his phone. They told him he had to unlock it. He initially tried to refuse, and they said, well, if you don't unlock it, we're going to deny you entry right now. You're going to need to buy a plane ticket back to the United States, which, depending on prices, is $1,000 there. And then if you wanted to go somewhere else in Asia, you're going to end up having to drop in $1,000 to come back somewhere else. And obviously he doesn't have a house in the US, so he would just kind of be there for no fucking reason, which would be not ideal. So he's like, so he ends up kind of went back and forth with him. Then he decided to just go ahead and give him to unlock his phone. And then they got to rummage through his stuff and look through his photos. And, when you're taking photos and videos and different things like that, you don't do it with the intention of a Korean immigration officer rifling through it. And asking you questions, and they don't have sort of the same standards of privacy that we would think are important in the West. So they will ask inappropriate questions about things that they're not supposed to be looking at to begin with, that are not directly related to. Because the thing is, like, the reason they asked him to unlock his phone was so they could look through it to see if there was some sort of evidence that he had been working. Like, that's really what it always goes back to that. They're always just worried that you're going to end up making money or doing something else that's like somewhat elite. Like, obviously, they're also looking to see if you're doing something that's just like flat out illegal by any definition. But beyond that, it's illegal to work on that visa. So that's what they're kind of really looking for. And so despite that, they're still looking through his photos and his different things like that. And then, it turns into inappropriate questions because that stuff actually does fall outside the scope of the reason they detained the phone to begin with. So, all right, that's one thing. But then what they ended up doing was they stuck him in a little white detainment cell with no windows and just a couple beds. And one other like Pakistani guy, that when my friend got in there, this Pakistani guy had been in there for close to a week and didn't know when they were going to let go of him. And so obviously my friend's in there, phone's gone, completely shut off from the outside world. And, and no idea when he was going to get released. Obviously super stressful, worst case scenario, kind of shit. Actually, I guess the Pakistani guy had the worst case scenario. My friend at the time had the second worst case scenario. Anyway, I think he was in there for about close to 24 hours and then give him a talking to, tell him what's what, had, whatever higher ranking, immigration officials review the situation. And they ended up basically saying like, hey, we're going to give you a 2-week entry visa into Korea. And you got to either get on a legit visa, like some kind of working visa, you got to get married, or you got to get your shit and you got to get out. And so, understandable. And while that is sort of the interesting conclusion to a thing that we had always stressed out about happening to us, actually, the big background behind a lot of this, and I've heard a lot of stories of sort of similar crackdowns in other countries, like namely like Thailand. They've been starting to do that. Where, not the detainment thing so much, but Thailand's been, if people end up going in and out too often, then they start being like, okay, this person's just living here. They're not really here for tourism. And so, they'll backroom you and they'll basically say like, hey, you need to get yourself on a legitimate visa or we're going to deny you the next time you come in. But the truth of the matter is, immigration officials have the right to deny you entry to their country for any reason that they want to. They don't require to give you an explanation. It is completely at their discretion. That being said, coming up to the immigration counter at the airport, obviously always be polite. Don't argue with them. Try to cooperate to the maximum extent possible so you can get into the country. But also at the end of the day, it doesn't serve that country to be denying entry to tourists. So they do want you to come in. They want you to spend money. There's not really an incentive for them to deny you entry unless there's actually you're doing something that's actually suspicious. Coming in constantly for every 3 months for a year and only spending 1 or 2 days outside the country each visa run. You're not going to find any of this on a website you're not going to see this anywhere official. But basically what came out of it, for the time being, it looks like the way it works, if you are doing a couple of tourist visas in a row in a particular country, is if you're in a country for more than 6 months out of a 12-month period, that's what's going to set them off. If you just do 2 full 90-day stretches in a row, you'll probably be fine. But that's pretty much going to be your limit. You're going to need to go somewhere else after that. So a lot of this is due to the interaction of a couple different things. After the 2020s, that whole time period really did mark the turning point in the remote working revolution. Pre-2020 COVID, the value proposition in the West, things weren't quite as expensive. There wasn't as much inflation. It was somewhat livable. One thing that COVID did do was it normalized remote working, advanced a lot of the different tools, and it made it a lot more socially acceptable to both do that as for your normal full-time career, but then also you started having a lot of companies to start realizing that they would be able to could have a much larger selection of employees if they made a position completely remote and were able to hire from basically the entirety of everybody with an internet connection. After all the crazy inflation we had, after all the governments decided to shut down all their economies in the 2020s, in Western countries, it became really, really difficult because things had just gotten so much more expensive and everything, the economy had been so poorly managed throughout that entire time period. But obviously, for most of that, you really couldn't travel. During that 2020 to 22 period, you couldn't really do a whole lot as far as travel or digital nomading. And it took a couple years for the tourism industry to sort of recover and get back to a stable place. But then going into, going into 2023, 24, you started seeing a lot more people getting into the digital nomad life and traveling around and doing stuff. And so you went from a somewhat stable number in the 2010s to down to nothing for the first couple years of the 2020s, up to like an extremely excessive amount of people like permanently traveling and living abroad. And then all of a sudden you had this huge influx of all these people that were staying in these countries for extended periods of time, much longer than anybody was used to before. And there were a lot more of us international bums that were doing the visa runs. So that's when you started seeing early on signs of like 24, 25s, and you started seeing more pressure on people doing visa runs, trying to prevent that and trying to shift people over to getting a digital nomad visa so they can control more, they can review who's coming in and out, and they have a little more of an accountable system that they actually can track what's going on. So it's not so much they don't want you to be a digital nomad, it's more about the fact that if you're gonna be in their country, they wanna know what status you're on and they want it to be the right status. So I went ahead and did some research on some of the best digital nomad visas here in Asia. And so I'm gonna give you my top 7